Okay, so someone asked about using the fourth axis. So uh, the the way he wanted to use it was fairly simple enough and might be good for putting a little video up. So basically, he wants to do table legs. So depending on what they are, yeah, the simplest thing would be obviously just a round profiled table leg, and then having some kind of designs put on them. So what you would do to do it with Bobcat's fourth axis, since Bobcat's fourth axis is wrapping, and the in the viewport it unwraps whatever the round stock and makes it flat. So he says he has a 3.5 inch block of wood that he's going to start with. So um, what I'll do is I'll just start off by making my cylindrical stock. You go to edit and then you change this to cylindrical stock, right? And then the stock diameter is 3.5. And let's just make this 3.5. So I'm just gonna do a square for the basic demo. So this is a 3.5 inch or 1.75 radius bar unwrapped from the center of the bar to the top as a flat block. So now, how do you go about doing it? So what I would do is I would just do it as if I was first. I would make the profile of the leg as if you were lathing as a lathed object. So this object right here, let me just blank this out, and I'll do a couple of quick shows here. So we blank out the stock. So I made this curve right here, which would be the same as if you wanted to um, do a revolve, or if you were running that on a lathe, it would cut that out on a piece of round stock. So I could show you real quick too by if we just choose a revolve 360. I'm gonna put in the direction you want to revolve it around the X. So you just put a number there, 1. And then I want the origin point. I want it to look exactly like it would, like I'm going to be cutting it, how I'll be showing you cutting it here, which is the full diameter of the stock. So I put 1.75 in there as the origin of the Z, which means it's going to revolve from up here. So now I can just change select this right here. And basically what that'll do is just show you exactly what I'm about to cut out, right? That's that profile I have laid around. So how do I get that to cut on Bobcat's fourth axis? Well, what you do is just extrude that profile straight across for the full length of your unwrap. In this case, unwrapping 3.5 inches turns out in the Y to be a length of 10.9956. So I would just extrude this surface right here this way. Extrude that curve, into a surface by that amount. So I'll go up here to extrude curve, and I already sampled it, so my numbers are there. So I put a distance of 10.9956. Now I have to make sure I go to the front UCS, and I'm going to choose along the Z, not the normal, because the normal of this curve could have it shooting off in different directions. So if I do that, then I get that surface right there. So that surface right there represents that profile along in the wrapped fourth axis, right? So now if I just 3D toolpath that all the way across with my cylindrical stock, outputting it as a with the A values, then that would cut that 3D toolpath around the outside of my stock. So how do I do it though if I want to add in all this detail, like he wants to cut in and cut out and stuff? Excuse me. So what I'm going to do is go to BobArt, and the first thing I need to do is set up my stock for BobArt. So I already have all the values I want. What I want to have in the X is 3.5, and then in the Y, I'm going to put again that unwrapped value of 10.9956, right? And Now for a Z value, I'm going to put 1.4. Now I'm going to tell you why that number came about. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. And so I'm going to create stock right there. So it's a little below what the unwrapped stock, what its level will be at. Let's go ahead and show it again. So it's a little below. Why is it below? Well, because I'm going to emboss this stuff all up. And so I need that stuff to be above there. So the first thing, Bobcat's Emboss will work off of solids and surfaces as well as the 2D geometry, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is make that emboss from a solid or surface right there. So let's go ahead and choose that. I'm going to leave all the default values alone. And then all I have to do is select that surface right there as the geometry. And then now I'll regenerate the toolpath, and you'll see that my BobArt surface has become that profile shape. And it's also up there where I put that BobArt surface stock, which is up there at the top. Now, now what I can do is go in and let's go ahead and I'm going to send that off to a layer. I'm going to put it on the corner rough layer because I already had some parts in there from my setting this up. Okay, so now I have that. Now what I can do is stack on another one. So let's do another emboss, but this I'm going to do an emboss regular, and I'll use a convex ellipsis, and let's put some numbers in here that I've already predetermined, which is 0.1486 and 0.0541. And what that's going to do is give me an emboss add, and I'm going to use alternating sets of curves. So now I'm selecting geometry. I'm going to select that first set there, and then the second set there, and I'm going to say OK. And now if I regenerate, what that does is gives me those curves embossed on top of the surface that I already did. Kind of neat, yeah, leaves. I mean, these are just basic, but basically all those DXF furniture type clip art things, you can just put those, you get those in as 2D, and there's many different things you can do. You know, there's a spline one, and without selecting those inner ones, these could be puffed, you know, like very puffed raised things, and with this, using a spline emboss, from this drop down right here, the emboss type, using a spline gives you like 3 points across here. You can really control and get a whole bunch of different shapes there of what that whole thing is. And then you know, he was also talking about cutouts, so I'm going to put one more emboss regular in there, and I'm going to say convex ellipsis. Let's put the same numbers in, right? 0.1486 and 0.0541 it was. And this time we'll do a subtract, and then we'll select the second set. There they are, and then we can regenerate, and those actually cut out. Now, I'll talk about a little more after in the toolpath. I'll show you a picture in a second. The toolpath I generated from this, you know, the raised comes out good, but to get a tool that's really going to cut this as detail was pretty tough. So I mean, you know, getting a small enough tool that's really going to make that detail come out in a 3D toolpath. So another thing I could do is I could go back to this here, that surface I created, right, which is down here, and I could actually raise it up to this level where it is, and then what I could do is project these curves onto that surface and then just do a 3D engrave on those instead of trying to cut it out. And then I could just pick the tool I wanted, or even using the V-carve. I think he mentioned in his post he wanted to use V-carve. And then I could V-carve that 2D geometry at that level to get something better than just a solid 3D toolpath across the whole thing. Anyway, moving on from there, before I get too distracted with it, which is now I have a surface, and I can go back to my cam tree, and I can add something like a slice planar here, right? And then I can select the geometry, the BobArt surface, and then I want to boundary it off. Now, regarding this boundary, uh, what you, because the boundary is going to be stopping the tool right at this edge and right at that edge. On an actual cylindrical stock, you may end up with like a seam there. So what you might have to do is extend these two end boundaries out by half that tool distance so that the tool actually goes completely to that point there and this point right here. And that way you won't, it'll be like a meeting seam instead of having a cusp there, or whatever you would call it. So that's just something I didn't do for the video, but for the cases of this, I'm just showing you something here. So anyway, 0.004 step over. We can do, if 90 degree lace angle would have it run lengthwise, which means your tool would be cutting with the rotary. Or if you put 0, then it'll be cutting back and forth in the X and just stepping with the rotary. So I did that. I mean, that's up to someone else to decide, right? Who you're the cutting person. And so there's a 1/8 inch ball tool, and now I'll toolpath that. We might have to sit here and wait for a minute. So I'll talk and indulge myself. So now I'm toolpathing that surface, which essentially is the surface around the outside of a round stock. So you saw me pop something in there, might have looked funny, which was I was going to talk about, well, if he doesn't have a way, I guess normally the way you'd want to do is turn his square block down to the size of the round stock that he's going to use to be able to get rid of the corners of it, because this is not going to be doing that. I guess if he doesn't have some way to turn it down and he has to do it on the mill on his 4th axis, then I was just going to show you my hokey way to do it, which was what I just did was draw a bunch of 45s that would be in between here, which would represent, like if you set up your square block with the flat up, then the corners would pop up at each one of these. So there's the toolpath generated anyway. And without making you sit here and watch through a back plot, what I did was I actually took a snapshot of a back plot I did. Where did I put that thing? Blah, 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 daisy. There it is. So let's open that up, and there's a back plot of it. So that's basically that leg. Now I made it the entire, it's a 3.5 inch leg. Maybe if you wanted to drop, oh, you can't see it on that screen, excuse me. Let's bring that over here. So there's the back plot of it. It's basically a 3.5 inch leg coming out in the round stock. So now basically I could determine the diameter of the leg now by just dropping this stock down. The further I drop it down, the smaller of a diameter that would be cutting. However, the ultimate would be obviously just putting this, determining the size of the round stock and having your wood already turned down to, if you wanted only a 2-inch leg, this would be down at 2 instead of up at 3.5, and doing it that way. And